everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got the review of the 2021 Kia K5 EX. I've been driving this K5 for the last week or so we're going to take it around for a little drive today, talk about what it's got going for it now with its new name. Well, this is only rocking the 1.6 liter motor, so it's the slower of the two K5 powertrains, but honestly it's quite good for daily driving. There's plenty of oomph, plenty of power to get up and go, get around what you need to do. It's mated to a plenty fine transmission that you can shift yourself should you want to. See, it's got 8 gears, decently responsive. If you're a speed demon, you're going to want the GT model with the 2.5 liter turbo engine. But I'm not really feeling the liveliness of the chassis to really warrant that engine. I think if you want to go with a sportier car, you're going to want to be in an Accord. I know the Accord doesn't make quite as much power as the GT K5, but I haven't really been inspired by the driving dynamics of this car. So if you want a sporty family sedan, do yourself a favor and get the Accord 2 liter, or even the 1.5, honestly. So if the K5 doesn't have driving enjoyment up its sleeve, what does it have? Well, as you've heard from a lot about Kia and Hyundai over the last few years, it's got a good value proposition. You're getting a lot of features for your price, you're getting a well-built, well-reliable vehicle. Just in this $29,000 EX, you've got heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, 12-speaker Bose audio system, which, if you want to see more on, check the link in the description for our in-depth infotainment and sound system review. You've got a decently comfortable cabin, some nice materials, and as we'll see in a minute when we pull off the road, some very stylish outside looks. Now, I got to reveal a little bit of my bias that I've sort of been coming to grips with over this last week. I'm not a huge fan of Kias. That's just me. There's something about their interiors that just don't do it for me. And they are similar to a lot of new Hyundai products. They are corporate cousins, but I like Hyundais. I like the Sonata. I like the Palisade. I like the Veloster. I like just about everything Hyundai's doing these days. There's something about Kias that just rub me the wrong way. So even though there's not anything explicitly bad about this cabin, something just feels off to me. This materials, it's this weird blend of like industrial luxury. You've got this fake wood grain up here, but then this stainless steel and all this piano black and this big old shifter right here. It all comes together for a design language that doesn't speak to me. It's very flat. It's not kind of a co-setting, rounded edge sort of look. Everything's very sharp, jagged, kind of a punk look at me sort of feel. I think the only Kia that I've really been able to get behind recently is the Telluride. It's just so good, and it's a little bit more of a luxury feel. Both the K5 and the new Sonata are new for 2020-2021 range. They're totally redone. This used to be the Optima. Now it's renamed for its global name, the K5. And it's almost as if the Sonata went off to prep school, the Kia K5 dropped out and joined a punk rock band. Let's get a better look at that out here. Do kind of have that Stinger-esque appearance look to it, kind of that sweeping look. Then get up front, you see this very jagged, harsh front end with these lights, which I should turn the parking lamps on because that is the signature of this upper level Kia. Kia's been kind of going with this orange light look to signify their upper level cars. I gotta admit, it looks cool, it looks sharp. I just don't think it's gonna age well, and I think it's a bit polarizing. There are a good amount of paint colors for the K5. The wheels look nice. I do like the rear end, kind of got this studded LED look. Nice font. There's a button you can pop open the trunk, however there's no handle to close it, so on a messy day like today, snowy roads, dirty car, you've got to touch the outside to close the trunk. And it doesn't close super easily. So if you go like that, you can see it comes right back up. So you really have to get some slam on it. Trunk is very Spartan, straightforward, no hooks, no baggies. Lift everything up underneath. You do have a compact spare, so that's something. Fold the seat down, head back to the second row. You do get the folding seats, but it's a pretty minimalist pass-through. There's a little bit of fabric to kind of smooth up that edge, and even some padding to help that, but definitely not flat, definitely not too large. Let's get this trunk closed. I do like this chrome sweepy bit. Comes up and around and goes back over to the other side. Not a big fan of this bluish gray. Don't think it's going to age well. I'm not a big fan of gray in most car interiors though. So again, just a little bit of my personal preference. Rear seat has a ton of room for this class though. That seat's all the way back. You can still see there's probably 10 inches or so of knee room, especially with these little seat cutouts. This seat is set to a 5'10" position. Back here, as a 5'10" person, I have tons of leg room, even a good amount of headroom. 2 USB-A ports in the back, some vents, and a flip-down armrest with some cup holders. This feels nice and solid. So I do think they did a good job with the rear seat. An amount of comfort, especially for this class. Nice panoramic roof that they included here, even in this not all the way top trim EX. I think that's nicely done. Again, all the boxes are checked with this car. It just doesn't have that it factor for me. It doesn't inspire me from behind the wheel, and since I'm not a huge fan of the looks, it's a little lost on me. So far, the powertrain's been relatively efficient. If you want to see more on that, check the link in the description for our real-world highway fuel economy test. Took this car out, did 50 miles out, 50 miles opposite direction for a realistic highway fuel economy cruising number at 70 miles per hour. This is a really cutthroat segment, and to get attention, you have to do something outstanding. You have to be either incredibly efficient, incredibly powerful, have a number of cool features that are different than anyone else, or just be that good at drivability or some sort of desirable quality. And I think all the K5 has going for it are aggressive looks. So if that does it for you, great. Get a K5, you'll be totally fine. But if that doesn't do it for you, there's really not much reason to get a Kia. I would take the Hyundai Sonata over this any day of the week. I think the sound system's just a tad bit better on the Sonata. I think the interior is much more beautiful. The exterior is much more beautiful. And rather than a driving experience that matches the outside of this car, where everything's kind of jabby, the throttle response is very snappy, the steering fairly tight, Sonata has a much more smoothed out driving experience. The power's there, but it comes on more gradually. Everything's kind of wrapped around you in more of a beautiful, comforting setting. It's not the case for this K5. I think this car's popular right now because it's new, it's got a new name, they've spiced it up a little bit, but I think it'll be very forgettable in about a year. You have a few drive modes in the K5. You've got Sport, Normal, and Smart, as well as a custom mode. I would like to see an eco mode if they're going to have that in there, and heck, while you're doing drive modes, might as well throw a snow mode in there to kind of dull down throttle response, increase the traction control. Even if it doesn't do much, it would add some element of customer comfort in saying, oh, I've got a snow mode, so it's going to help me in the snow. It is nice to see cooled seats at this price point. Certainly not putting them to use today, but I'm glad they've got them. I'm going to close the sunroof shade as we get up to highway speed so you can get a more accurate example of how the car sounds at 70. Gets up to speed, no problem. Highway comfort in general is actually quite good for this class. Road noise is average, but wind and engine noise are pretty darn low. My biggest frustrations that I discovered on my highway fuel economy test, though, come in with the adaptive cruise control and the active lane keep assist. Every time you activate cruise control, it also activates the active lane keep. So you can see here, the car steers you quite well. It does a pretty good job at keeping you in lane. There's no sort of ping-pong effect. You keep your hands off the wheel for quite a good amount of time, even though it's not a full semi-autonomous driving mode. However, when you cancel your cruise control and turn that off, the active steering stays on. So you'll be driving along and you'll be like, why is the car tugging at me? And you'll realize that the steering thing's still on. So you turn that off. The adaptive cruise control is also too conservative. Kias used to have a pretty close following distance, and now when you activate the adaptive cruise control, even on the closest following distance, you're too far away from the car in front of you. I'm sure it's some sort of safety regulation, but I think they could do better. I think everybody was thoroughly impressed with the new Sonata when it came out because it elevated what the family sedan class had to offer, especially at the non-luxury price point. And the K5 doesn't meet that level. So just like the Optima, it's going to live in this sort of family sedan limbo of rental cars, of maybe someone who owned an entry Kia like a Rio or a Forte and went into the dealership, had something wrong, and got talked into buying a K5. But I can't see too many people aspiring to the K5 in a few years and having it be a car that's talked about and necessarily relevant anymore. But maybe that's just me. K5 does have a pretty good backup camera. There's no 360 view, but resolution's good and it shows you where you're turning. And for those who don't like the Sonata's push-button shifter, which I say just get used to it because it is better to use, this shifter does feel nice. It's easy to grab onto, slap it and drive, and you're good to go. So am I missing something on the K5? Are there people out here watching that think it's a genuinely great product that deserves top class? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more on the K5, check the links in our description, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.